Welcome to my 10 days of Mothership palettes. Today, day 3, we're going to, of course, be doing a look with one of my most beloved palettes from McGrath Lab. This is the Subversive palette, which to this day, in my opinion, remains one of her most iconic palettes, and I think one that truly embodies who Pat McGrath is as a makeup artist and what they used to stand for as a brand. Now, without further rambling, I've already done the base makeup, the brows are on, I have eyeshadow primer on, and as with the other two videos, we're just going to do blush, bronzer, highlighter, and then the eye look together. So for today's blush, bronzer, and highlighter, I've actually chosen this palette from Pat that I have in the shade Nirvana in Bloom, which has a bronzer, a blush, and a beautiful highlighter, which I cannot really use as a highlighter in the winter months. It really works more as a blush topper for me, but the rest of the shades work really nicely, so I'm just going to use those because I think they're going to fit the look very nicely. I think Subversive is one of those palettes that if you have it and you understand it, you really know how iconic it is. But I can also understand Subversive is not an easy palette to approach because it's quite smoky. It's quite, you know, to me this is really the palette that gives us, you know, a little sneak peek behind the curtains, a little taste of what it's like to do runway makeup. That's why I love it so much, and I think that even though it is a very smoky palette, you can still do quite a lot of, you know, more approachable looks. But overall, I wouldn't say it's a palette that you should rely on for office looks. It's definitely more of an evening palette and one that most people would probably reach for when they're doing like, you know, more evening or party makeup. Going with the blush now. I did take this little trio with me during my summer holidays, and I very much enjoyed using it because the colors are very appropriate for my skin when it's a little bit more tan. This is again not a shade of the trios that was meant for me. This is like a little palette that I think is meant for like medium to deeper skin tones, but I just loved the colors so much, especially the color of the blush. I thought the color of the blush is absolutely beautiful, so I really wanted to have this palette, and I already knew that I can make Pat's formula work even with the deeper shades. The only shade that I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to get away with is the highlighter, and that is the case. That is the only shade that doesn't truly work as a highlighter for me. But we're going to use it, I think, today more in the capacity of like slightly blush toppery, slightly highlighty shade. So I am going to place it where I usually would place my highlighter, but maybe just a tiny bit lower so that it doesn't look strange on like the top portion of my cheekbones. But I still want to use it with a very light hand here in like the lower portion of my cheeks and bring it slightly up. So I do still have that highlighty effect, but it's not sitting weirdly on top of my cheekbones. And that is how I've been making this palette work for me, with a light hand and strategic placement of the highlighters specifically. I'm going to fix everything with a little bit of Fix Plus by MAC, and then we can proceed with the eye look. And for the eye look, I think it will not come as a shock to any of you given how I'm dressed, and for those of you who know how much I love Gigabyte from the Subversive palette, it will not come as no shock that we're doing a look with Gigabyte. But I'm going to try Gigabyte in a somewhat different capacity than I usually do. So I don't know how this is going to go. We're going to experiment a bit together. So here is my gorgeous Subversive palette, loved, used, and abused, as you can see. And what I want to try to do today is actually something I've been enjoying really a lot lately, and I haven't actually tried it with this shade yet. I want to try Gigabyte in the capacity of a liner today. So I want to do something like lighter on the lids, and I think I'm going to do a bit of a mix between VR Pink and the Champagne Gold shade as like my lid shades, and I want to have this shade as a liner, and we will just see how that goes, you guys. I have no idea. Can't make any promises that this is going to be a successful look. Maybe I will just shoot myself in the foot and I should have just gone for what I know, which is, you know, a little smoky moment with Gigabyte. But I want to try something new, and what better opportunity than today when we're playing with Subversive again. I have worn this dress already several times with the Subversive palette and with Gigabyte specifically, so I feel like I've gotten, you know, the smoky Gigabyte looks out of my system, and now I can go for a liner look. And may I just say, just this as a liner is already so beautiful. Now I'm going to apply it first as sort of like a base and to intensify a little bit the lash line, And then I'm going to apply the lid shades, which are slightly going to cover up Gigabyte, but I'm going to go back into Gigabyte in the end of the whole process, just so we make sure we don't lose it. Alright, then I'm going to take a somewhat fluffier brush. This is from Sonergy, I think this is the Worker Pro. And I'm going to essentially dip very lightly between the Champagne and VR Pink, because I think VR Pink, gorgeous shade, but I want to slightly lighten the tone. That's why I'm adding the Champagne. And I'm going to use that all over the lid. Maybe going to dip a little bit more into the Champagne again. And I'm going to lightly bring that up in the crease. Ooh, I already love what is going on here, you guys. This was a really good idea. Obviously it's a shimmery shade, so if you take it all the way up here, it's going to be shiny. But I don't really mind, I signed up for that, so it will be okay. Now the question is, how can I replicate the exact same tone on my other eye? Oh, that's not bad. Okay, good, it looks good. I'm really happy. This is going to be a really simple look, you guys, but as I mentioned in the intro to this series, I sort of wanted to give this series a twist of Mothership, you know, 10 days of Motherships, but make it very, very wearable. I know we don't like the term wearable, but sometimes I can't think of a more appropriate term for it. This is so pretty. But because, as I mentioned, I have some issues with my inner corners fading really quickly, I am going to apply this Kiko eyeshadow stick in this light beige shade in my inner corners. I'm going to give it a blendy blend here with my finger. And then as my inner corner highlight, I am going to apply this shade here, which texturally is one of my least favorite shades in Motherships 2 and 3. But I think like this over a creamy base, it actually looks really pretty. It gives the most beautiful like pinky iridescence. I think if you apply it over top of other shades, or you wet it, or you put it over a creamy base, this shade tends to perform much better. I don't know if people have the newer palettes, maybe the texture in the newer palettes is nicer, but mine is extremely dry and like it feels like sandpaper. Anyway, going to go back into Gigabyte now, like I said, to slightly intensify it, but not too much, because I'm actually enjoying the effect of the VR Pink over top of Gigabyte. So I'm just going to apply Gigabyte as close to the lash line as possible. And then I'm going to take it a little bit further down here on my lower lashes. Normally if I wear this dress and I go for a look where I have an olive green, I would choose for a brown or something cinnamony like Velvet Cinnabar from Lisa Aldrich. But I also figured Enchantment from Lisa Aldrich would complement olive greens so beautifully. So I decided to go for Enchantment, and I am not mad at my choice. I think it looks really pretty. The eye look is quite soft, so it doesn't really compete all that much with the lipstick shade. And because Enchantment is such a subdued shade, I think everything worked out together very nicely. So this is Enchantment from Lisa Aldrich, just in case you were wondering what the lipstick looks like. It is essentially a very toned down red. It's a red for people who are afraid to wear red lipstick. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this look. I really enjoy how it turned out. I love how soft it is. Do let me know what you thought about it as usual. Thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!